Welcome to our Equity.Guru Investor Roundtable today. Very excited to talk about Mydecine. The full name is Mydecine Innovations Group. I am Rob. That is Chris, the guru himself, Perry upstairs, Vishal Vatura up yonder, and making something with his still in the basement is Galen.
LSD.
Oh, cheaper. Different level. Whole different level. Well, in that regard, we're talking about Mydecine, MYCO, on the NEO exchange under Josh Barch. Chris Perry.
Mydecine, as in plasticine, as in medicine, as in medicine. Anyway, it's a psychedelic company. It would be the easy way to describe it. The sector that everyone would assume Mydecine is a part of. Look, I like I did with cannabis back in the day, I like to say that there is no psychedelics industry. There is a biotech industry that will incorporate psychedelics, and there is an industry that isn't allowed yet, which is supplying people for party favors. Everyone likes psychedelics because they see down the line that party favors will be the thing. Same as we did with cannabis back when it was all patients. But the reality is most psychedelic companies, for want of a better phrase, are just placeholders until we get to that whole drum circle life. Mydecine, however they want to. Let's just call it Mydecine, as in medicine.
Supposed to sound like medicine.
Yeah, okay. So, all right, there's two reasons I like them. One, they're a card-carrying member of our client base. So, good job, Mydecine. But two, and most importantly, and this is the reason they are a client, is because we kick the shit out of a lot of psychedelic companies for being bullshit. We hold them to a very high standard because that's what should happen. You shouldn't just throw your money at anything that has mushrooms in the title. These guys are putting together something that a lot of companies are claiming them to do, and that is they've actually got some clinical trials going on. By clinical trials, I don't mean 13 guys in a strip mall in Albuquerque doing step 0.01 of an FDA phase. I mean actual clinical trials, like in multiple countries and multiple different things. They've got a 2/3 phase clinical trial going with Johns Hopkins University. They've got about smoking cessation. They've got a NIDA grant funded smoking cessation study, as well as that from Johns Hopkins and NYU. And they've got a study to help treat PTSD in veterans, large scale microdose study, first of its kind microdose study in Australia. Like, there's a lot of studies going on. Is that enough for a public company to just be doing studies and talking about what might one day be? No, it isn't, because you've got to do more than just do the research. You've actually got to put products out there into the world. So it's one thing to actually study the shrooms and say maybe they're good. It's another thing to get them out to market. To get them to market, you actually need some Health Canada dealers licenses that will allow you to get things into the hands of actual patients. So does Mydecine have that altogether, boys?
Yes.
Yes, they do. Actual company doing actual business. Okay, so if you've got a Health Canada dealer's license, you can be part of the very few who are allowed to supply psilocybin and MDMA, which are Health Canada Schedule 1 drugs, to patients and treatment facilities that are dealing with them on a need basis. This is not easy to do. This is not something where you just call up Pfizer and say, hey, send me some psilocybin. You actually need to go and be a part of a program and show that it's necessary and there's no other outcome possible for your patients. But when that happens, and we're going to say right now it's probably a small group of people that are in treatment in places that actually see these as options. But when you get approved for treatment, you go to Mydecine and you say, gimme. This is far further along than almost all other psychedelic companies. It's far further along than almost all medical companies, than almost all pharmaceutical companies. Like, this is a real deal. These guys have anchored themselves in the medical supply game. They realize that the whole getting stoned on a shrooms thing, it might not ever actually be a thing. It might take years. Certainly in cannabis, the government didn't change the rules, the courts did. And I'm not aware of any court cases involving mushrooms that are going to force that issue. So for a while now, for some time, it's going to be a case of doing the research, which will open the door slowly towards actual products in the market. Mydecine are doing the right thing at the right time, in the right way, to show that they've actually got something going on here. There will be naysayers. There'll be plenty of people that say this is just the only available option to do business in the shroom space. That's not incorrect. But what is correct is that these guys are actually going about it the right way. If you go through their news releases, you can get into the science of it. I'm not going to, because I am lazy.
Galen, how lazy are you?
Just a step above that. Basically, I like Mydecine. I like the idea of people progressing the medicinal aspects of psilocybin, MDMA, LSD. These products actually are relatively easily transferable into FDA approved trials to treat real world conditions, as we were talking about with PTSD, smoking cessation, weight control, all sorts of interesting different things. And by the way, if you want to stop smoking, try smoking magic mushrooms just by themselves. You'll probably never smoke again. Anyway, that aside, this company has 4 candidates, one in very late stages research, which means it's very close to commercialization, relatively speaking, again, in the clinical world. And they will be the ones that will have something on market available when we are able to actually make this a recognized medical treatment, which is not necessarily that far down the road. And I do think, you could call this a placeholder segment of the industry. I don't think so. I think this stuff is, as I said, more readily transferable to a medical treatment than marijuana ever was. Marijuana is very subjective, and a lot of the treatments and responses were anecdotal, very hard to track. There were a few things that they could deal with, like glaucoma and other types of things, appetite creation, that kind of stuff. But I mean, that's not necessarily medical condition. That's a supplemental therapy. So these things, however, have an ability to really get in and help treat major conditions like major depressive disorder, Alzheimer's disease, all sorts of interesting things from all sorts of differing aspects. I like this company because it has original science, meaning that it's treating a specific or niche market rather than just going, we're shooting for the whole shooting match. It's kind of like Mind Life Sciences, who has decided that it's going to use a special faction of the science, saying that it's the anti-inflammatory qualities of this product that work. And so I enjoy that. They're pushing the envelope. And these are the guys with the pocket protectors and the science behind them that will really flourish in this space. And as Chris said, they're doing business, which is a big component of opening a company.
Yes, it does help. Rochelle, thoughts and then charts.
Yeah, psychedelics, it's just one of those spaces that we've been talking about here recently on Equity.Guru and on the investor roundtable here. We had a show recently on the cannabis sector, and we've talked about how maybe that's beginning to bottom. We've looked at a lot of psychedelic stocks as well, and they've been sort of looking the same, where we've had these really prolonged downtrends. Here's a chart of Mydecine, and you can see here we're actually very close to not necessarily the record lows. If I zoom back, you guys can sort of see that record lows, it looks like, came in just maybe 1 cent below. Back in 2020, around 11 cents here, and we have bottomed, we did find some support on the 7th of this year, January 7th of 2022, at around 12 and a half cents to 13 cents, and today we actually did pull back to to around the 14-cent zone, not necessarily back to the lows of around 13.5 to 14 cents there, but some bids are coming in, which I think it's a positive sign here. Generally, you know, a lot of people like to buy as we get closer to support, especially if the support is really close to previous record lows here. So if you are bullish the space in general, I think you're going to have a really good opportunity to get some shares here. And if I remember correctly, some decent volume today, actually, 861,554 shares traded. So, you want to see good volume when there's a green candle and a large wick like that, indicating that there actually is a large group of buyers coming in. And I'm not really surprised, because I would suspect there is going to be a large group of buyers very close to this support here. As always, just me, for the psychedelics, I always want to look at the major ETFs here just to indicate a reversal. And it's very similar to what we did with the cannabis space with MSOS, which did break out. We've been talking about PSYK and PSIL, and I still have our little, our arrows here drawn, basically how we want to see this market break out to basically initiate a new uptrend in the psychedelic space. But unfortunately, as you guys can see here, we just cannot close above 4.20, $4.20. We've tried for almost 2 trading weeks now. We just can't get that breakout, and that's all that's required. We just need that breakout, and I think a lot of these psychedelic stocks will begin to look quite exciting, as we've seen, on the cannabis side as well. If I take a look at PSIL, very same situation here. We just need that breakout, but we just can't get it, and the stock continues to range here. So I think if we get those breakouts on these ETFs here, so above $5 on PSIL and above 4.20 on PSYK, I think that presents a very interesting case, especially with Mydecine here, very close to this 12.5 to 13 cents support level here, and you can expect a very nice bounce from there, and the next target would really be 30 cents. That's the next resistance zone up here, and then from there we'd be looking at the 35-cent trend line there. So a lot of basing patterns on psychedelics, and if we do believe these stocks will pump, and I think if things, on the geopolitical side of things basically allow all markets to start to move higher, you will see a lot of the retail crowd come back in, and I think they might be looking at cheap things such as psychedelics and cannabis, as we talked about. So I'll be paying attention, because I think when I see these type of ETFs ranging, and as I said, decent volume coming in, especially at really important support levels, I think there's something that we can work with.
All right. So ultimately, we decide if we are spending money at the moment on MYCO on the NEO exchange Mydecine.
Oh, sorry, can I just interject one more time here? Because I think I should mention this. 2022, take a look at some of the catalysts that are upcoming. So there's going to be quite a lot of catalysts for the stock, actually. I'm interested in this one here in Q2, an anticipated NASDAQ listing. I think that would be a pretty big sign there as well. So a lot of catalysts upcoming, and the stock's at a major support. So
nice.
Looking good, yeah.
News to produce. Chris Perry, you're first with the Cashy Cash.
Yeah, well, so I think the last time we spoke about these guys, if memory serves, I might have said throw a couple of grand in and see how it goes. If anyone did that, then they did pretty well, taking it from about 10 cents to 30 cents in 2 weeks. Obviously, there's been a sell-off, but these don't necessarily mean that bad things are afoot. It sometimes means that there are folks that bought in and they're taking their profit, and that's the natural way of things. Certainly, folks that looked at a 10 cent to 30 cent jump in 2 weeks would be justified in trying to feel what it feels like to have cash in your hand for a change. But I think we're back at the reset point there, where the exact same thing applies. Throw a couple of thousand more down and see what happens over the next few weeks. If it drops again, build your position, like take advantage. I think this is a decent little company, and client relationship aside, quite frequently our client companies become client companies because they're confident that if we kick them around a little bit, they can stand it. And this is a company that, we've given a bit of a rough time to early on. They made a lot of promises that we didn't necessarily think they were going to keep. Respect where it's due, man. They kept them. And so thus the relationship begins. I think there's nothing wrong with holding people to account. And there's certainly, if you're going to do that, there's nothing wrong with letting them have a victory lap when they do the right things. This is a company doing the right things. Share price is hurting because the sector is hurting and because a lot of people were getting all fizzy around the prospects of psychedelics doing what cannabis did back in the day. But I'll tell you what, let's let reality set in now. This is a company that looks to be on the outward side like it's doing everything I would hope it to do, everything that we dared it to do. And fundamentals wise, look, it's only a $40 million company as things stand. That's a pretty good get in, I think, for a company that could wake up one day and find that its FDA clinical trial results have resulted in it having a product that can come to market. I like it.
Couple grand. Galen,
Grand.
how much cash?
Well, I still think the industry itself is distorted, and has a bit more to go yet, a bit more bloodletting to happen. As we can tell from the indices themselves, that there is no breakout occurring just as yet, and they don't look necessarily all that positive at this point in time. This is nothing against Mydecine, sorry. It's a good company, absolutely. But I think I'm not really a day trader nor a swing trader. I just want to put my money in and let it go. So I would want to see it hit those support levels and then show some positive movement, and then I'm in. So right now, I'm just going to wait, but not because I think it's crap. Just I want to wait for my opportunity.
All right. Vishal, cashy cash?
Yeah, I would be putting, and I'm going to approach this more as a trade. I still agree with Galen. I think in the long term, there's probably still some hiccups for the industry in general. Obviously Chris and Galen, I think, are the ones who want to listen to about that. They're much more knowledgeable about that stuff than I. I look at the charts, and I'm approaching this, as I said, as a trade. I think there is an opportunity here for a little bounce, just because we're so close to this big support level. And if I remember correctly, maybe we did actually record when we were actually at this support a few weeks ago. So we are back there at that support. I would be putting around, I would say 2K around here. And I think it's a good trade, just because there is that potential where, you can finally see that PSYK and PSIL breakout. But the risk is, this does break down, as Galen mentioned, right? This is not yet pointing to a breakout, but I'm just looking at broader macro themes as well with, say, the retail crowd and what the broader stock markets do. And I think that might be enough to actually bring back the retail crowd and bring back some of these sectors which have taken a hit. So I think at this support level, and with the ETFs looking ready to reverse, I think it's a good opportunity to dip in around 2K here and ride it as a trade.
Very good. Covered the gamut there with our options. Talking about Mydecine, which is officially Mydecine Innovations Group. You can read about them and hear about them with Jody Vance around us on here. Josh Barch is the CEO, and it is MYCO, MYCO, on the NEO exchange, MYCO on the NEO. We cannot guarantee any results from past performance. We can also not guarantee any of the information we just spouted out of our pie holes. But hopefully it is helpful. Please do your own research, your own homework before doing investing, and don't count on any promises. We wish you the best of luck, however. We being Roberto down here, Chris Perry up there, Galen over there making gin, and Vishal.
LSD, not gin.
The chart attack master. We'll see you on the next Investor Roundtable. This is Equity.Guru.